Hi, I'm Neda Mirzaeian from UT Dallas, and I have the pleasure of presenting my work on beverage packaging and environmental outcomes. This is a joint work with Savannah Tang from Southern Methodist University. Consumers and regulators have been pushing firms toward more sustainable packaging. For example, milk is a classic example of where firms should probably rethink their packaging options. The most common packaging option is non-recycled plastic, which is cheap but the most harmful for the environment. Eco-plastic is another option, which is partially recycled, so it is greener, however it's a bit more expensive. A newer alternative is glass bottles. These bottles can be reused and refilled multiple times. So the main trade-off is between cost and emissions. In terms of cost, glass is the most expensive option. In terms of emissions, as I mentioned, non-recycled plastic is worse than eco-plastic. However, we can't easily compare these two options with glass. This is because glass is marketed as eco-friendly, so many people just go ahead and assume that it's always better than any kind of plastic, even if it is single-use glass. But in reality, the production and transportation of glass can produce more emissions than even non-recycled plastic. So unless these bottles are being used frequently, they are not going to be more environmentally friendly than plastic. Firms also need to think about their advertising budgets. Sustainability advertising can be very effective. For example, for glass bottles, it can increase the rate of return for these bottles. However, for any kind of packaging, over-advertising can backfire and lead to greenwashing. So we wanted to know among these packaging options, which one a firm should choose and what should the pricing and advertising budget for that option to be. And also in an environment that we have some aware customers or environmentally aware customers, is it possible that glass would end up hurting the environment more than plastic? Let's move on to our model. So we model the firm's decisions on packaging, advertising budget, and the price for the product. For each packaging option, we define a green score, which you can think of as the inverse of emissions. The green scores for plastic options are fixed, but for glass options, the green score depends on the return rate of the bottles and the advertising budget. This actual green score might be different than what customers perceive it to be. So we also define a perceived green score for plastic and one for glass. Our customers might differ in their environmental awareness, so we consider two groups of customers, environmentally aware and unaware. Environmentally unaware customers base their decisions only on price, but environmentally aware customers base their decisions on price and the perceived greenness of the packaging. Both of our customers only purchase the product if their utility is non-zero. So we are considering an outside option which has a utility of 0. The firm's profit then is determined by customer demand, which, as I mentioned, is itself influenced by the packaging option, pricing, and advertising strategy. Let's look at some of our results. So first, when the firm only has access to plastic options, we see that greenwashing can be an optimal strategy. Greenwashing here means using non-recycled plastic but marketing it as eco-plastic. This happens when we have a lot of environmentally aware customers, but the greenwashing detection risk is low. When offering glass, however, we see that advertising or sustainability advertising plays a big role. In fact, sustainability advertising can prevent greenwashing altogether. So we call this a win-win-win scenario because greenwashing is avoided, the firm's profit increases, and the customer's utility also goes up. However, we also show that glass can be harmful for the environment or increase the environmental impact of packaging for the firm. This happens under two scenarios. The first one is when the outside option has high emissions, and our optimal strategy is using glass at a premium price. In this scenario, we might push our customers toward that high emission outside option. The second scenario is when the outside option has low emissions, and our optimal strategy is using glass but at a low price. In this scenario, we might prevent our customers from choosing that cleaner outside option. We also use data from a local dairy firm, and we show that in their scenario, the optimal strategy is using glass at a premium price. This can significantly reduce emissions and increase their profits compared to any of the plastic options. However, if we are looking at emissions only, we see that using glass at a lower price can be better than using glass at a higher price. We also compare our optimal decisions with the firm's current decisions. So the firm currently is using glass bottles. However, if they follow our pricing and advertising recommendations, they can still increase their profits and reduce their emissions. So to summarize, we show that packaging, pricing, and advertising need to be optimized jointly. Glass is the optimal choice only if the bottle return rate is high, which can be achieved through sustainability advertising. The good news is that sustainability advertising can also prevent greenwashing. This was my talk. Thank you so much for listening.